Ian Sacks here, joined by Austin Stellato, current Iona College junior and voice of the Iona Gaels, play-by-play for the women, sideline reporter for men's basketball. And Austin, we're just 2 days removed from the announcement of Iona hiring Rick Pitino as its next head coach. Tell me your initial reaction when you first heard the news.
Well, when I first saw it, I'd seen some rumors, ever since I think, Cluse decided to step down that, it was really Pitino and Grasso who were the top names really in it. And I really didn't know what to make of it. And then you saw other things coming out, such as, that he had a relationship with Seamus Carey. He had a relationship with Rob LaPenta. And, if anybody knows anything about Iona, if there's two people that have a very good relationship, it's the president of the college and one of the top donors of the college. I mean, now you look on campus, there's two different buildings that bear LaPenta's name. So, he had the necessary, contacts to get his foot in the door, and, his resume really speaks for himself. But back to your question, that initial reaction was one of kind of surprise. I didn't really expect to see that Rick Pitino would be coaching at the college at which I attended. Once the reports came out and then everything became official, it was really, from a student perspective, pretty much I was excited, and I am excited to see, what he can do with the program. And, obviously he is a little bit older, but, to see what he can do over these next couple of years, it's an exciting time, and I was excited when I found out.
What do you see as the next step for Pitino as he takes the helm of this program?
I really think it's going to be about getting the right players. And, anybody knows that when it comes to basketball, especially if you're taking over in a first-year job, you got to have the right players surrounding you. Now, he does have a decent core of players coming back. Isaiah Washington, Isaiah Ross, I believe, to go alongside Dylan Van Eyck. So that's three starters returning right off the bat. You have Colton Castro, who should be returning as well. And, in the middle of the season, he got some burn as well, played a little bit down the stretch, more of a defensive ball handling type role. I think he needs to develop his scoring, but I think it's really going to come down to who Pitino brings in and who surrounds, those three guys. Because, you have a ball handler in Isaiah Washington, you have a shooter in Isaiah Ross, and you have Dylan Van Eyck who can defend very well. He can rebound the basketball. If he can develop his scoring a little bit, maybe, work on his outside shot a little bit more, that's a very good trio to build around.
What type of adjustment do you think Pitino might be facing now, coming from the game in Greece where he's been coaching the last couple years? And last time in college was 2017, 3 years ago, and that was at a high major program in Louisville in the ACC. Now he's coming back to the mid-major ranks, and though Iona's had success at the MAC level, it's a totally different game.
I think one of the biggest challenges for Pitino is, first, I think, just goes back to the players and making sure that he has the right players and making sure that those players work well with each other and within his system. I think one of the big differences is coming from, if you say just from Greece here to Iona, it's just a completely different style of play. I mean, the Euro Basketball League, I think Pitino even said it. He said it, that, some of, if not the best offensive basketball, in the world. And I think if he's able to implement some of that into Iona's game, that would be very interesting to see. And you mentioned a good point with Louisville. He obviously was there for so long, was able to recruit some, 4 or 5 star recruits. Right out of the gate, obviously I think a lot of Iona fans hope that he can maybe pull in a 4-star recruit or even a 3-star recruit, but he's going to have to really coach. And I think that's something that he's looking forward to, actually, is getting back to, pure coaching. He won't have the type of talent that he had at a Louisville or had at a Kentucky for certain, but he's going to be able to coach. And I think that's one of the biggest excitements that he has, and I think that's one of the things that drew him to this job, is to get back, to that pure coaching style that he has. But I do think that one of the adjustments is really just figuring out, who he has on his team and who he's going to be matching up against in the MAC. Obviously, each MAC team has their own identity. You take a look at a Marist, for instance, with John Dunn. That's a defensive style of play where that game could very well be a 50-45 final. Or you have the Monmouths and the Quinnipiacs of the world who kind of like to run and gun under, King Rice and Dunleavy up at Quinnipiac. So there's a couple of different styles of play in the MAC itself, and I think that, Pitino may have to kind of figure that out, when he takes the helm in New Rochelle.
Austin, piggybacking off of that, what's the matchup you're most looking forward to? So many great storylines with Pitino in the MAC. You have to look at the Iona-Manhattan rivalry now. Getting elevated, Pitino was the coach of Masiello at Kentucky. They coached together for several years, and now they're going to be facing off on the sidelines.
Yeah, obviously at face value, that's going to be the matchup that may get a lot of, media attention too. You could see that game being flexed to an ESPNU game, maybe even an ESPN2 game. Those matchups, obviously, you and I both know, Iona fans know, Manhattan fans know that whenever these two teams square off, it's a big deal. And, I think maybe this year that it lost a little bit of its juice just because of how Iona was playing at the time, how Manhattan was playing at the time, the absence of Tim Kluse. And if you look at both of those games, they were both, a blowout. They were each blowout victories for the home team in each matchup. So I think, that's going to be the big matchup going into next year. But I also think that, I think just in terms of coaching personalities in the MAC, I think Iona Monmouth will be very interesting between Pitino and King Rice. King Rice, one of the, one of the top tier coaches in the conference, and you take a look at Pitino coming in with his resume, I think that'll be a very interesting matchup. Also, you can look at King Rice, a UNC guy, Pitino coach at Kentucky, two of the blue bloods going at it. I also just kind of think another good matchup off the top of my head was mentioning him a little bit earlier with Baker Dunleavy at Quinnipiac. You kind of have this, basketball family with the Dunleavys, and Dunleavy has done a decent job at Quinnipiac over the past couple of years, trending in the right direction. So kind of the old guard versus the new guard there. And, you can even, throw in Niagara in that mix also with Craig Paulus, kind of in that same mold as Dunleavy. But I really think any way you slice it, it's always going to be a big matchup now for Iona. Every game they go into, especially on the road, teams are going to be, looking to beat them and make a statement. But in terms of the coaching matchups, there's a handful of some intriguing matchups.
Now, Austin, you have a unique perspective, being a current student, but also a member of the media. Take me on campus. I know you haven't been on campus since the news broke with the lockdown due to the coronavirus, but give me the perspective of a current student with this news.
Well, yeah, obviously it's been unfortunate that we haven't been able to be on campus, spring break, virus, everything, but even just group chats with friends and my fraternity brothers, everybody's excited. And I think that was also seen. You can just take a look on Instagram the other day. Everybody reposting on their Instagram stories the IC Gaels post that we did hire Pitino. And, I just really think there's a lot of excitement. Everybody was sad, with the whole Tim Kluse situation this season, because undoubtedly he is a beloved figure on Iona's campus and obviously, onward and outward from just our campus. But, to hire a guy like Rick Pitino, it's a splash hire, and it's going to get people excited. And that's really what I've been seeing right now is a lot of excitement. People, I think, are now even more eager for next year's basketball season, just to, or even just getting back on campus and seeing Pitino in New Rochelle. But yeah, everybody seems to be pretty excited, and that's something that you really like to see, because you want to see people invested in the program and in their school, and right now that's how it seems.
You mentioned the outpouring of support for Coach Kluse. Really, in addition to when he announced that he would no longer be returning, but even throughout the entire season, all the opposing coaches and fans of opposing teams and players sending their best to Coach Kluse. Put his era in perspective. 10 seasons at the helm, 9 of them he was active for, 6 NCAA tournament appearances, 8 times winning either the tournament championship or the regular season championship in the MAC. What did he mean for the Iona community and for college basketball as a whole?
Well, I think to kind of, just talk about Tim Kluse is a legend. He's a legend, not just at Iona, but in the MAC. And I think really the job he's done over the past 9-10 years City metropolitan area basketball. I think that is a fact. That he is, a legend. When we take a look back at his time in New Rochelle and how he has impacted the Iona community, I'm someone, just because of my age, I've only known, Tim Cluse as, I've only known the Iona basketball team, with their head coach as Tim Cluse. And, that's something that a lot of people are very prideful about, especially, you take a look at, the Iona College community, Iona College students. So it's a lot of people from Long Island. And I think that does mean something when they can say, well, this guy who's the leader of our program, one of the most recognizable faces at our school, has had so much success. Well, he's from Long Island, just like me. Full disclaimer, I am not from Long Island, but as you know, tons of people from Iona are from the island, and I think that sort of presence on campus, it will, again, lament him as a legend within Iona, and, his success is really something that I think is going to be very tough to duplicate, within the MAC, just because, even in those years when he was winning, there was always parity, and it was like a strike of a bell, the flip of a switch. You knew that come March time, you don't want to face Iona, you don't want to face Tim Cluse. And, one thing just to go off that, talk a little basketball-wise, is Cluse was known, especially at the beginning and through the middle of his career at Iona, always known for that, high-scoring, fast-paced offense. But if you look at the championships, especially the past four, it was always the defensive mind of Cluse getting the job done, switching up defenses every possession. That's where teams, I think, really struggled against Iona, especially, you could even take a look at the past two championship games between Monmouth and Fairfield. It was the defense that got it done. But Cluse, he's going to go down as perhaps the greatest coach in MAC history. And maybe, success-wise, he's got to be up there in terms of Iona history also as well.
A very interesting point there you made about Cluse being a native Long Islander and the proximity to Long Island and the high percentage of Iona students that come from the island. That's an extra connection that, say, not many coaches would have, and even the success level that he's had, that helped to make him even more of a fan favorite in New Rochelle.
Just to go off that, absolutely. I mean, when you can see somebody who's from your own backyard succeeding like that, it's not just the college who gets invested, it's the local community, it's the rest of the area. And I think that's something that, we really saw, we really did see with Tim Cluse. And, I'll be interested to see how it works out with Pitino. Obviously he is a New York guy, but, has bounced around for several years, obviously. But, he's a New York Italian. We're going from an Irish guy to an Italian guy. Can't get much New York than that, but, should be interesting to see how, I have a good sense of how the college and the students will react around Pitino. Should be interesting to see how the rest of the extended Iona College community reacts to Pitino as well.
Austin, some great insight and unique perspective. Thank you so much for the time today.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for having me on.
He's Austin Stellato, voice of the Iona Gaels. I'm Ian Sacks. Thank you so much for listening.